Everyone. I'm Thelma, Vlamis, a holistic counsellor and psychotherapist, and I really support people to tap into their inner wisdom, their instincts, their intuition, so they can discern and make decisions that are aligned with their entire self. That's why I'm holistic, because rather than just thinking from the mind, from talk therapy, I do a combination of talk therapy as well as body therapy and energetic work too. So this holistic approach can support you to make decisions in your life that are more aligned with you, and not just rationalizing or justifying or sort of being influenced by external sources. So today's masterclass is on intellect versus embodiment. Okay, let's get started. What is the difference between intellect and embodiment? Now I'm going to share my screen. I would love to hear, for those of you listening and watching the replay, what your understanding of this topic is. And Kate, I would love to hear from you as well, what your understanding of this topic and what sort of interests you about this topic. Yeah, go for it. If you want to unmute, go for it.
To be honest, I have absolutely no idea about this topic, and that's why I'm here.
So your curiosity brought you here, which I
Yes.
love.
Yeah.
Hi, Tracy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I guess, I probably realize I know something about it, but I've never actually sort of looked into this. I guess I just wanted to, look into it and find out more about it.
Oh, I love that. I love your curiosity, Kate. Welcome, Tracy. So Kate's also a client of mine too, so it'd be really lovely for both of you on here. Tracy, I've just asked Kate what brought her to this topic, and like what what sort of interests you about intellect versus embodiment. And if you would like to share your perspective, it would be great. If not, you can stay on mute. Up to you if you want to share anything there.
So just get off mute. Hi guys, how are you? Yeah, it's all quite topical for me at the moment. I think I'm dealing with a couple of situations currently where this is sort of coming a bit into play. And even today, I'm going to resign from one of my positions that's happening a bit later today. And I know we've spoken a little bit, but they're coming from a place of real, they're not thinking very logically, but they're not also thinking very emotionally at the moment. So I'm just trying to get myself prepared for that, which way they might come from as well. But personally, I also find that I can be very intuitive when it comes to other people, but I block that in myself. and then I go too much down the logic side for myself and justify things. So I thought it'd be really good to actually have this session just to sort of start thinking about how I can better trust myself. And this is why I'm sort of resigning today, because it's like I need to trust what my body's telling me about this role, and back myself on that, and also understand how other people can perceive that, and just try and get a bit more in my toolkit for it.
Yay!
If that makes sense.
Welcome. That absolutely makes sense. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so throughout, what I'll do is I'm sharing my screen at the moment, so hopefully both of you can see this. I will pop you both on mute just to support the audio. So I'll just do that. So if you have any questions, because there's only two of you on here, this is a time and space that you can get whatever you need from this session. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them in the comment box, and then I'll get back to you and we can unmute and work it out together. So the reason why I'm bringing in this topic is because I've met, along my sort of holistic counselling path, personal development path, I've met a lot of people who are very intellectual based and less embodied based. And I think the importance of this is that when we are working in authority, with emotional privilege and power, we really need to know whether we are working from up here, our mind, or we are working from both the mind and body, and soul and spirit too, if we want to think on of a deeper level as well. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that the mind is very conditioned. So our mind is looking to the external. We've got vision, right? We're looking external from us. We're also looking for any challenges, anything that can get in the way. We are very much intellectualizing things in the mind. And I'll move more into this space. In the body, though, we are feeling things in the body. And in our society and growing up, many of us have been dismissed for how we feel and what we need. So then we've moved to the mind, because the mind is the safe place. Intellect can be really safe. So that tends to be what happens when people say, I've disconnected. What has happened is we've disconnected from our body because it was safer to be in the mind, to be in survival mode. And the interesting thing about survival mode is that when we are fully in that fear response, we actually can't access parts of our brain. So the better thing to access is the state, the feeling, emotion, and sensation. So I'm always like, the feeling, emotion, and sensation is more accurate than your mind is. And now we'll move into this space. Okay, so I can't see that. Let me see. I'm not sure what I've written up the top. I can't see that because oh, there we go. How does intellectualizing get in the way of embodying what you know? So many times what we find is when we're making decisions in life, we've been taught to make decisions from external. Go do the course and study, read and research, memorize what you're reading, speak about it, write about it. And also what we don't realize on a subconscious level too, we create confirmation bias to connect with the parts of us that don't want to change as well. So we've kind of been taught to look external from us, intellectualize things, and then the thing that we want to happen will happen. So I look at this as a goal. If I am changing careers, or whether I'm coming out of school and going to study, and I see, okay, I've got a goal to be a scientist, I've got a goal to be a psychologist. What we actually miss is, how do we want to feel when we have achieved that goal? Not many people or teachers tell us that at school. It's often this, if you go study, you'll get what you want. And this is where I like to shift it. So intellect is really important, and it's a resource and tool for us. I like to shift it in the way of, do the inner work, so then you can get that alignment piece. What feelings are we actually, what do we want to feel when we become the teacher, become the scientist, become the psychologist, or create a business of our own? What do we want to feel in that? And looking at maybe the fears that come up, the resistance that comes up within that, creating a needs list, and then moving on from there to the resources, because the needs list will then have probably resources that needs to happen. I need to do a course to feel more confident. That will help me feel more confident. So that's a tool and resource. Often we've sort of been taught the opposite way around. So we'll move into this space. Okay, so if I want to feel confident, in order for me to feel confident, I'm going to talk about times where I haven't felt confident, and then when I do feel confident. We want to be able to feel what it's like to not feel confident. What's the opposite of confidence for me as an individual? And then the other side of it, how do I feel when I'm confident? How do I know that I'm confident? What would be happening in my body? How would I be acting and behaving? How would I be thinking? And so the embodiment piece is around noticing the feelings. In order for us to do this, we can notice the feeling and combine the intellect with it. So somatic, body process, as well as mind process. But in order for us to do this, we have to work through the part of us that's really fearful of feeling certain things. And that's what gets in the way. So many of us haven't been taught how to do that. So bringing the two together in everyday life, so practicing this is what embodying means. It's for me to practice feeling confident. What can I do? What skill do I already have and can master that's in alignment? What does that mean? If I've got a skill that I'm really good at, I might not like that. I might not like doing it. It might drain my energy. It might feel soul sucking, but I'm really good at it, right? So being good at something is different to being aligned with it. What you want to find is, if this is the example for confidence, if there is a skill you naturally, innately have within you, which many people don't know that it's a strength of theirs and that other people don't have it as naturally. So having people around you give you feedback on your strengths can be really beneficial. But picking one of those things that you're really good at and you love doing, it brings you joy, and then building on that. So building mastery on that, mastering that skill, that's what will bring confidence. That's what it means to embody. So it's embodying, taking action. It's moving towards something that you actually have never achieved before. It's moving towards a personality trait that you've pushed away because it wasn't safe to be that way. That's what the embodiment piece is. So we'll go into, so this is why therapy alone will not create the embodiment. So therapy brings awareness, and it also helps you process and feel the embodiment almost for the first time if you've never felt it in certain situations. So whatever thing you're working through in therapy, you might do a process, and more with a somatic or body-based therapist who works with the body. So talk therapy and CBT won't get you to these depths. It really needs to be talk therapy combined with somatic or body therapy to get you to a place of embodying a new way of being. And why that is because you need to get a taster of it in therapy. Whatever you learn in therapy needs to be honored to then embody it. So a lot of people might say, I've been to therapy and it doesn't work, and I keep trying this and I keep doing all this personal development and it's just not working. Now that's an indicator that there's the change isn't happening outside of those processes. So you could go to therapy, breathwork, sound healing, yoga. You could do all these things, and while you're doing those things, you get a sense of this peace, this inner peace. You get a sense of this contentment, this calmness, this groundedness. And then you might leave that space and find yourself back in these default modes of a fear response, or the challenges that you sort of had put aside when you went into these spaces. The reason being is for us to embody those practices, we really need to practice it in our relationship with other, in when we're alone, when we are doing activities on our own. So we need to bring that into our everyday life. That's the challenge. That's the challenge of implementing your awareness. So the awareness is the intellect, and then implementing it and embodying it is more of the body-based feeling. If you know much about manifestation, manifesting is not doesn't come about from affirmations. It comes about from feeling what you're saying. So an affirmation will only feel right for you if you believe it or start to believe it, and you're feeling it on a subconscious level too, because lots of our feelings have subconscious messages and sensations in our body. So making the changes, behavior, perspective, and thinking, habits, environments, and people around us. So changing these, kind of what you were saying, Tracy, changing your environment sounds like you're doing, which is awesome. So what intellect does, though, what I know that it can do is we can be really identified with a part of ourselves on an intellectual level, but haven't embodied it. How do we know this? It's when we believe we're something, but we're getting an outcome that's contradicting or the opposite to what we believe. So a person can say, I'm a really good person. And they can say this in times when they're feeling like they're not being a good person, or there's something they did where they made a mistake, and on a subconscious level, they're feeling like they're not a good person. If I'm identified with being a good person, but my behavior is not reflecting that, and the way I feel about myself is not reflecting that, then I have not actually embodied being a good person. So this is where someone's intellect can come in, and we can look at someone on the outside and say, oh my gosh, they look so smart, that this is what they've got. They're like a CEO, they've written books, they've got courses, they have all these incredible things. If they do not feel that success and feel aligned and embodied with it, what can happen is things can sort of leak out and go wrong around them, where their relationships break down, where they may go bankrupt. So it's like a false power, and that was what I was saying in my email before this, is there's this false power in it. So we're identified with a part of us that is that, but there's actually a subconscious part that is making the decisions in our life, which is why we don't get the outcome that we want. How do you know you've embodied something? It's generally because you've aligned with it, and the outcome is most likely going to be more growth-based and a positive outcome. Not saying that we can have negative outcomes along the way, but it's more a pattern. So if it's like a reoccurring pattern in your life where you've got a certain challenge, then you'll know that, there's something that I'm missing. So I feel identified with this part, but then people are telling me that, I'm being controlling, or I'm being this, or maybe they're giving us feedback along the way that we're ignoring because it feels too hurtful to hear it. It feels hard to hear. So that's generally an indicator. So often if we want to be more confident, want to step into something, want to have, we are not so identified with that part of us. So in order to embody it, we need to create tools, strategies. This is mind-based. This is the intellect that comes in. Tools and strategies to support us to start to embody it. This is why personal development is not easy. It's simple. So these things that sound so simple, but they're not easy because we're human. And we've got, a past with woundings and distrust of ourselves and others. So this is where the resistance comes in. So what does resistance mean? It stops us from feeling. If we've had any type of trauma where we were taught to minimize, dismiss, and push away our feelings because that was safer, and generally it's never, we don't want to self-sabotage. There's no part of us that wants to self-sabotage us. It thinks that it's protecting us. And so that resistance that comes in is, so I find something out in therapy, and it could be, this week I would like to go to yoga. Yoga supports my inner being. It helps me become grounded, and I get inner peace from it. So I've got this little goal of mine this week to do it, and then I don't do it. So that's resistance that's come in. There's a part of us that's come in, or you, or whoever's got this goal, that's come in and is resisting the process. Now, a good therapist, in the sense of, when I say a good therapist, someone who knows how to work with resistance, will not shame you for this. It's so important that we're not shamed for not taking action. There's always a reason behind it. There's always something behind our resistance, and that's a process in itself. So this is why embodiment can be really difficult, because our resistance comes in, our fear comes in of feeling our feelings and emotion. And also our defense mechanisms come in, because if we get feedback along the way, it may hit on our shame. It may hit on parts of us that feel stingy and hurt us. And so we either avoid, push away, and close down. So I've got these are some reflections on what can happen on a subconscious level. So unconsciously, we do not do this on a conscious level. Sometimes we do, and we're aware of it. Rationalizing, justifying, so intellectualizing things. Anytime we're avoiding feeling, and that could be taking action, justifying, excusing, denying, any of these things, what happens is we're actually on the surface. So when people say, oh, you're on the surface, you're not actually getting to the root cause. That's because we're up here in our mind. So part of therapy is hearing that part, right? The mind, the chitter chatter, the ruminating that's happening, and then dropping into what's happening in your body. What's actually going on in the body here? This can be really difficult for people who have big emotions around certain topics. This is why it's safe to do it with a therapist. So another way we can intellectualize is talking about trauma, wounding, or a traumatic experience without processing it. So we're just sort of cycling in the mind, and that's an indicator when things are cycling and it keeps happening, the same thought process, the same feeling. It means we're not actually processing what's happened and we've intellectualized it. Another thing that can happen is suppression and repression. So we can suppress. So when I was talking about when we're really identified with the part, say, I'm a good person, I'm really identified with that. So what I might be suppressing, or what might be even repressed. So repressed means I don't even know it's there. I might be repressing the part of me that doesn't feel like a good person. When I do that, I'm projecting out, I'm a good person, I'm a good person. So every action I'm taking is against that part that I'm not a good person, which means that I'm probably leaking it out because I'm not owning the part of myself that is maybe behaving in a way that's hurting other people. So that's a repressed part of us. As we peel back the layers in therapy, so as we stop suppressing and we're with emotions, we then hit each layer and then we hit the layer of repression. That's when memories can come up. That's why in therapy, you can go through a bit of an evolution where you start with talk, then you move into the body when you feel safe enough with your therapist. And then in the body, because you're feeling and creating safety to feel, then that's when memories can come up, and that's when things can start to open up that maybe you didn't even know were there, and working in that space. That is how we can uncover the resistance. So that's the resistance that I was talking about. So the opposite of avoiding, which is what those other things were, is curiosity. Anytime we feel hurt by someone, upset, offended, anytime we feel like someone has been mean to us, curiosity is really important in these spaces. It could be curiosity about myself or the other person, but curiosity can start to bring in, what is it about that situation that upset me? And then we start to uncover what's going on, because an activation is generally attached to some subconscious belief system. So this happens in conflict with other, this happens in therapy. I might have a session with someone where they feel like I offended them, that I maybe judged them for something. And so curiosity in that moment can actually push you forward, because what it can do is, if I did that without even knowing I did it, then your curiosity to be like, oh, okay, I want to defend myself, or I feel like you judged me. Bringing that into the space, then you can unpack it in a safe environment and get to know parts of yourself that maybe you've never been able to get to know, because outside of therapy, it has been unsafe to do that. We weren't taught how to have healthy conflict. We weren't taught how to work through tension and anything that upsets us. So curiosity is, someone said this the other day, it might have been someone on Instagram, it was like, curiosity is the opposite to avoiding. And I was just like, that is like genius, because it is. It's the opposite to avoiding things. So intellect, I just want to recap, intellect is really important, actually. I find science, intellect, books, podcasts, anything that can broaden your perspective, super important. What I encourage people to do, however, is to have a intuitive embodiment knowing in their decision making. What does that actually mean? It means How do I know what my boundaries are, my yeses, my nos? I feel into it in my body. So the alignment piece. How do I know whether something's for me or whether I'm doing it for someone else? It's always in the body. So if you can process things in the body, then use intellect as a tool, as a resource. That's ideal. That's what you want to do. So you've sort of, before using the tool, as I've said, create that alignment in your decision making. Go in, what's my motivation behind this decision? You know, what am I noticing in myself? What does it feel like when I make this decision? Noticing different ways that we feel, and then using the support of intellect. So that's what I did when I started studying holistic counselling. Before that, I did a lot of inner work to know what I truly wanted to do. And then I used the course as a tool, so the intellect as a tool. So that's about it. I would love to hear from you both. Who would like, if you've got any questions or comments even, any realizations, bring it in. Would you like to start, Kate? You look like you look like you've got something to say.
Technology. Well, I made a lot of notes. I guess we're doing some of this stuff, but very interesting. But there was a point where I started, some part of me wanted to run away.
What was that point? Did you know when that came in?
Nearer the end,
Yeah.
suppression, repression. I'm like, what's like,
Yeah.
and then I started like going, what's in my diary and stuff like that. I was like, oh, there's that thing. It was like, start fiddling with something else, or like want to get up and
Yeah.
like make a cup of tea or something. Like, um,
Great noticing though. I love that you noticed that in
yeah,
and aware of that.
so much that I'd like to talk to you about um,
Yep.
yeah, but it's interesting. I can see what you're talking about. I think I still struggle with feelings. I'm realizing like they're very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As in, I just realized how much I was sitting there going, geez, I really didn't learn. When you talked about this, I was like, yeah, healthy conflict. My feeling like not like I wasn't encouraged to acknowledge my feelings, let alone like be allowed to actually have any. So it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like this is I can see how I got to, where I got to, but I'm like, I got some more work to do. But I'm doing it, and I
Yeah.
can see it, but I'm like, yeah, feelings. Even the other, like, just each day I'll just be like, I'll wake up and I'm like, what's wrong with me? And I'm like, yeah, so it's just um I guess it's all very interesting. I feel like I have more to learn and to discuss, but I understand all the concepts. It's like I don't know if I'm fully doing the things, but yeah, but I can see that I'm not doing, like as you said with intellect, the looking externally, like for answers. I think I'm finally sort of going, no, I just need to tune into myself. So I have learnt stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Instead of going to my family or someone else going, I don't know what I should do. What do you think I should do? Like, it's just like, just figure it out. Like, so I think I have learnt some stuff. But it's just very interesting.
What part of you it feels like you're like, oh my gosh, I've got so much to learn now. Like where did that come from?
Well, I think like the suppression, repression,
Yeah.
avoiding. I'm like, what else is in there, kind of thing? Because he said we
Yeah.
haven't done body work yet, and I was like, I thought we'd done that already. So it's like, oh, and you were talking about that. And I was like, there's this other part that we haven't got to yet because I've got very active protectors and stuff like that. So
Yeah, but you totally are doing body work. It's just like keep going with it. That's all.
yes, Yeah.
like, because the protector will come and be like, we don't need to do this. We could just
I
like,
don't want to do that. Oh, I want to go on a holiday in my mind. Like, yeah.
yeah. No,
So,
absolutely. And I love how your awareness around the suppression and repression part, because I feel like your body's giving you a bit of a signal around, ooh, that's the direction to go in, because that's the very direction that I want to avoid.
yeah, and I think, yeah, there's so much that's just been squashed down.
Yeah.
I also found it very, very interesting about the skill thing, because that's what I'm trying to figure out as well. Like a skill I can do, like just being good at it. I didn't write it down as well as you said it, but because I can I can do nearly anything. It's a bit annoying, but
Yeah.
I'm good at something, but does it actually align with me? And that's the purpose. I feel like that's a bit of a thing I'd like to explore with you.
Yeah.
With and then you're talking about the feedback, say like how I have the B&B and then I get negative feedback. I'm like, is that all relevant? Like, how I get the negative feedback and I hate it, but I actually hate doing it in the first place.
Yeah, I love that you
I
bring,
thought,
because anytime we get, it doesn't mean we have to put, so okay, so we can get feedback from people, and some of it's theirs, right? Their own
yes.
activation, and some of it can be like, okay, what's activating me here? And that's how I get the information around, what part do I play in this? Like,
Yes.
what's the co-creation here? Doesn't
Yep.
mean that someone's to blame. It doesn't mean that someone did something wrong or you did something wrong. But it's all around, did I, what was I always look for the co-creation and what's underneath.
Yep.
So it's hard to sort of explain. But
Mm.
if we are activated, if we have big emotions come up when something happens, it's a signal to go, oh, what's happening there? And I mean, you don't have to live your life where you do it every single time,
Mm.
but suppression, what it is when we distract, avoid, minimize to reduce that feeling. So we're pushing
Yes.
that feeling down. So
Yep.
in order for us to look at it, it would be like, okay, I'm getting these big emotions, like this physiological.
That feels really scary.
Yeah. So you're noticing you feel scared even talking
I'm
about
scared of my own feelings. Yeah,
it.
those big feelings. Yeah.
Yes. And
Sounds
so
terrifying. I'd much prefer to suppress and repress those.
yeah, and a lot of people in society are doing that. So I know it's terrifying. So that's why why I work, when I work with people in this space, it's slowing it
Oh,
and being with all parts of you, because it is scary, and I completely get that. So
oh,
part of it is just slowing it down and being with that, which you're
oh.
doing and we're working together on.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, there's some things I made notes that love to go into depth about, but I
Fantastic.
found it, yeah, there was some really very interesting things. I'd probably like to watch it again, and like I felt like I was a bit like, oh, um, like it felt like a lot, which means it's something that I need to let work on. So,
And you know what, that
yeah,
feedback's for me too, that it can be a lot too, what I say, right?
there's a lot of information.
Information. Yes. Yeah. So you can watch the replay,
Yep.
and also know that our attention span in general is not for like me to be talking at you for 20 or so minutes. So, so just be aware that it's not you, it's also me creating this space.
Yeah. But yeah, resistance to change is what stops us from embodying. Yeah, so anyway, I'd really like to talk about embodiment more, because I guess I'm probably doing it, but it sounds like it's this thing that I've kind of got the concept of, but I'm not fully embodying, whatever. So
You're practicing it at the
yeah,
moment with me. So that's
cool.
okay. Tracy, what's happening there? Thank you, Kate.
Yep.
Love your input.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I totally understand and agree with everything Kate was saying there. There's lots of bits in there. You can see it in the actions you do or the relationships you have and how you adjust things. But I really like for me I was really bringing it into the context of my conversation this afternoon. So that was a focus. But what I really liked, I think what I sort of picked up a lot is one of the things, the biggest thing for me was that feelings are a resolution. Like that is it. Like I don't have to justify everything with intellect all the time. And my feeling about something is the full stop. And so I don't have to then go, oh, well, what, you know, because I'm thinking about this situation that I'm in at the moment. I'm intellectualizing the impacts it will have on the other person and how they will be impacted, the issues that could have, what that could mean for down the track with our relationship. But then at the same time, I'm like, but I'm not then being true to myself, and I'm not actually listening to the fact that when I see that phone call come through, I'm, you know, there's a physical reaction, and I'm not looking forward to that, and I'm embracing myself for the conversations, and I know it's going to be awkward, and there's frustration levels, and I'm over delivering but feeling like I'm the problem. So it's that understanding that it's actually okay for me now to say it's the right time for me to be out, and down the track, who knows. So I think that was really good. And I think just being really conscious, I'm not doing a lot of bringing those things together. So I will feel things about things, but I'll often then close it off with intellect and over intellectualize everything, and think about, you know, how I'm doing that for everybody else's benefit before my own. So yeah, I was putting there that, like, one thing I have to practice on that I know I'll speak to you about is just the idea of using intellect as guidance. As you said, you know, that's the tools, that's the structure you can hang things on, but overall the result and the outcome that you will get will be how you feel about where you get to on those things. So I think I need to just start being better at practicing those things, of making that decision, but then sitting with it and then just feeling it and saying, does that actually seem right or not? So there's some really good stuff. I was the same. I was just like writing everything down and going through things. But it's really funny too, because curiosity is something that's been coming up for me a lot over this past year, that be curious, not judgmental. And then you were saying, you know, curious is the opposite to avoiding. And so I'm finding that is actually helping too, is just when I'm seeing something happen. And I had a opportunity with my daughter. We had it was a recycling bin day, and we saw a lady come, and we're in a really quiet cul-de-sac street, but a lady came in and started taking all of our bottles out of our recycling rubbish. And our first thing was like, that's our rubbish. Like, should we tell her to get out of here, like get lost? And then it was like a good opportunity to be curious. Why would she be doing that? She's obviously in need. She obviously needs to try and find a way to get some cash. So she's taking the bottles to recycling. We didn't use it. It was in our recycling bin. So if she's going to be able to do that, but it was really good for me. It was just sort of one thing that I was really conscious of, to be curious with my daughter, so that, because she had the same thing, like, she can't go through our rubbish, that's our rubbish. And so it was really nice. And I still, when you see it in action, it really does, it makes that huge impact, as to takes the layer of what that preconceived stereotype reaction is, and then you just, you know, step back a bit. So yeah, so there was lots of things in there that I found really amazing, but still lots of things to work on with you.
Such a beautiful example. It gave me goosebumps.
Oh,
Oh, that is
yeah.
such a beautiful example. So you went from like defend and protect to
My property.
yes, to curiosity, and just
Yeah.
even unfolded that. That's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a good one. So it was good for me in my head, but then also that my daughter was there. It was a really good one that I could then loop back a lesson. So I thought, yeah, so it was just, I really love that you brought curiosity into it today, because it's something that has been coming up a lot for me this year. So
Yes. Yeah, beautiful. Because it's the very thing that, you know, when we're trying to embody something, if we get activated, we might default back into the old us, and sort of like we've learned all these things, like we have all this
yeah,
knowledge. So we're going to therapy, we have all this amazing like knowledge or like insights. And in order to actually integrate them and embody them, we really need to do something different and to move away from those defaults, which is why I do a lot of the activation work around fear. So fear comes up, let's get underneath, let's have a look at what's going on there.
Yeah, the scary part, but good. And it's 100% right. I know as soon as you do that, you take the power away from fear, and, you know, it's actually it's generally not even close to as bad as you think it is, but it's that first bit of tackling it and getting through that. But yeah.
It can be really uncomfortable, can't it, that first
Yeah.
bit? Yeah.
100%.
Oh, amazing. Well, is there any other questions? There's a little more time we've got if you need anything else. But other than that, that's the masterclass for today.
Amazing. Thank you.
very welcome. And I
Very
look
glad
forward
to
to
join.
seeing both of you this week.
Well, thank you very much.
You're so welcome, Kate. Thank you both for coming along, having a listen, engaging, being curious. Love it. Love it.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Thelma.
You're so welcome. I'll see you both
Bye,
this
Kate.
week.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah,
Okay, bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.